Welcome back to the second episode of the mountain bike trail build series. We're back in the woods. We had a bit of rain last night, so it'll make it a little bit easier to shape it and compact it. If you're new here, in the last episode we made that berm, which actually runs all right, surprisingly. Made a decent start on this kicker, which needs a lot more work because at the minute it's a bit sketchy. So whilst we got a bit of moisture in the soil, I'm going to try and pat and shape a bit of that berm. After that, I'm going to add some more mud in the right places this time to that jump. And hopefully in this episode we can build the landing, give the jump a proper test. Just realised that with this hat on, I look a little bit like something out of Home Alone. With that in mind, I got cracking with tapping and slapping the mud. Whilst doing this, I realised I definitely want to make this berm a bit bigger. But that's a job for another day. We've got plenty more to worry about right now. I mean, it's definitely compacted it a bit more, but I think it's time to start adding to that kicker and transform that kicker into a gap. I think this whole trail is going to be a lot more work than I thought it was, but it's still fun. Now we're going to go on to trying to make that jump a little bit less deftly. The main issue on the test run was it's a little bit too steep. So I'm going to make it a bit more mellow by adding some dirt to the bottom, and I can start building it up in height as well then. So let's get digging. But unfortunately, it's not quite as simple as just starting digging because the ground is literally filled to the brim with roots and rocks. So before I could start digging, I had to walk around, probing the ground. Not like that. To try and find a suitable place I could actually dig and take mud from. So after walking around for a while, trying to find a better ground that wasn't full of roots, I think I found one. I've got the wheelbarrow digging now. I'm going to take the dirt from here and transport it over to the jump. Let's have a look. This dirt is so much better than over there. I don't know if you can see, but it's actually quite clayey. Will make a better pot for sure, but will it also make a better jump? Well, that's exactly what we were going to find out until the only spade that I have with me snapped. So I shaped a load of the jump up bare hand. Well, I actually dismantled the whole jump almost and rebuilt it. I just wasn't happy with how strong the jump was, so I ended up taking all the logs out and putting all the mud back on with my bare hands. I then went home and returned the next day. So it's now the next day and we've returned with the dog. But we've also returned with a lot of water. Stopped for a minute now, but it has been pouring with rain. My window wipers broke on the way here, so I had literally no vision out the windscreen. This one works fine, yeah, perfect. This one, on the other hand, what are you doing, mate? Just twitching about. Now I've got to try and figure out how I'm going to get down this extremely slippery hill with an old pair of Air Forces on. I kind of think speed's going to be the best way of doing it. Ah, oh my God, no, Jesus Christ. Basically ended up dismantling that whole jump, taking all the logs out and rebuilding it with double the dirt. So even though after all day yesterday of digging and tipping, it still doesn't look much different. It's so much stronger, and I even put a pile or two on there for the land. My plan was to get straight into building the rest of that jump. But whilst laughing at Arlo trying to grab this rope swing, I realised something very bad. Oh, we've had a disaster. Come up here this morning and somebody's tampered with it or tried to destroy it, but they haven't done a very good job. So before I could continue, I was back patting down this goddamn berm, which is a little bit disheartening because I did the exact same thing yesterday. But today we've got Arlo helping, if that's what you can call it. So it wasn't long before it was back to near its former glory. I put a load of clay on the jump. It looks crazy at the minute, but I promise it's a lot stronger and it will be so much better in the long run. If you're wondering why Arlo's on his long lead all the time, because he has a tendency to chase things. Birds, any live animal really, even noises sometimes, and there's not really a guarantee that he'd return. So I thought for his first time here, I'd have him on his long lead, but he keeps getting tangled around these trees. So whilst it's wet, I'm going to try and shape this jump to make it a bit stronger and just look a little bit better. And it dries up and I can actually put a load more dirt on there. It's got a solid foundation to sit on, you know. For the first half an hour or so, the conditions were pretty perfect. The clay was really wet that I put on yesterday, so after a couple of little taps with the shovel, it was shaping up quite nicely. But it wasn't long before the heavens opened, like really opened. It was absolutely hammering it down, and yes, that did make shaping the jump easier. Just listen to it. Absolutely hammering it down out there. Me and Arlo have come to take cover in this bit of a whack of sorts. It's not that good, I must say. There's quite a few holes in here, but we're drier than if we were out there, so it's a win-win in my situation. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying the series, because look at us, soaking wet, sat in a bivouac, having the best time of our lives. So we're leaving the cover of the bivouac. I don't think this rain's stopping. I've just had a look on the weather and it's going to get worse if anything, so we're going to brave through it, finish shaping up this jump. The jump's looking much better, so let's make it look even more better. This is by far the most satisfying part of the trail building series so far, giving the mud a little slap until the moisture comes to the top and then smoothing him on out. Now the jump's actually smooth and not just a big pile of dirt, I can also see the low and high spots, so hopefully when and if this clay ever does dry out, it'll be one, hard as rock, and two, actually level and smooth. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm gonna have to do this a couple of times, but this is a start, you know. It's wet, it's horrible, but this jump's looking so much better with the clay and a bit of water and smoothing it out. And even though most of the jump was looking a lot better, the rear end was still an absolute mess. And nobody likes a messy rear end. So I got my hands a bit dirty and slapped that on like I was making an African mud hut. Look at the state of me. Sometimes you've got to use your hands, boys and girls. Even though we didn't get anything actually built in this episode, look how much better this jump's looking. I've got quite a lot more mud to add to that jump. Twice the amount of speed off that first berm. I want that gap to produce quite a nice little bit of height. Look how much better that jump's looking. Now, so we've just got back in the van. Arlo isn't too happy because he's got soaking wet. This video's been a bit of a disaster. I had so much planned. I actually wanted to build more features. I wanted to get the landing done. I wanted to get another berm done, the kicker over that log done. But this whole trail building malarkey, it's my first time doing it. And even though we didn't build anymore, we improved what we already had built. And that takeoff is looking so much better. So I apologise for this video being slightly boring, but let me know down below if you want an episode 3 of the trail build series. Thank you for watching. If you've got this far in, make sure you subscribe.